It's Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Daniel Penny gets justice. We think we got the UnitedHealthcare assassin, and why Dwight Schrute rejected atheism. Next on the AM Update. Daniel Penny has been found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the subway chokehold death of Jordan Neely. It comes after jurors told the court Friday morning they couldn't reach an agreement on the top charge, second-degree manslaughter, and prosecutors moved to dismiss it, prompting the judge to controversially allow them to only deliberate the second charge. Penny, a 26-year-old Marine veteran and architecture student, was charged with manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide for the subway chokehold death of Neely, a 30-year-old homeless man with schizophrenia who barged onto the train shouting death threats while high on a type of synthetic marijuana known as K2. Penny's side of the courtroom erupted in cheers, prompting an angry response from Neely's side, including his father, Andre Zachary, who told reporters yesterday,
"I just want to say I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts."
That is Jordan Neely's father, who abandoned Neely as a child and then placed him into foster care after his mother's murder when he was a teenager and didn't, of course, care about him while he was homeless. He's saying he misses his son and the system is rigged and he feels really, really badly about it all. Here is a leader of Black Lives Matter New York at that same press conference shouting some gobbledygook.
"We need some black vigilantes."
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
That's a leader of Black Lives Matter New York, just casually inciting violence on a Monday morning, having a totally normal one. Speaking of a totally normal one, here's this BLM stooge.
They didn't even try. Once the lesser charge was removed, they came back an hour later and said it was deadlock. Less than an hour and 20 minutes later, they said not guilty. These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort. God damn them and God damn America.
Again, Black Lives Matter New York just having a totally normal one, calling for violence against white people, saying GD white people and GD America. Just totally normal stuff from BLM. Definitely not a front for communism at all. But on a serious note, I am overjoyed. Praise the Lord. Overjoyed and surprised that Daniel Penny is now a free man. He was served justice. He got justice. There, in no sane society at all, should somebody who really probably saved the lives, or at least the livelihoods or well-being of several passengers on that New York City subway, in no sane society should we ever even come within an inch of locking somebody like that up. And it has nothing to do with white or black. Nothing at all. Jordan Neely should not have been on that subway making death threats. And Daniel Penny did a righteous thing and saved the other passengers. They were felt unsafe. They all did. He did a righteous thing. And now he's acquitted of these trumped-up charges. Praise the Lord. Other big news yesterday, Luigi Mangione has been identified as a person of interest in last week's deadly shooting of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The 26-year-old was arrested on firearms and other charges in Pennsylvania after being spotted at a McDonald's in Altoona. New York police detectives are heading to interview him amid a massive manhunt for the shooter. New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch told reporters during a news conference that Mangione was believed to be a person of interest in the shooting. Officers arrested Mangione Monday morning at the Altoona's McDonald's after a McDonald's employee recognized him and called police. The officers questioned Mangione, who was acting suspiciously. Officers found a gun and a suppressor on Mangione that were consistent with the weapon used in the December 4th shooting of Thompson. Police said the gun appeared to be a ghost gun, meaning it had an obliterated serial number. Clothing and a mask consistent with those of the suspect in the case were also recovered. Mangione was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs and a U.S. passport. One of the IDs matched the fake New Jersey ID that the shooting suspect used to check into a Manhattan hostel before the shooting. Police also say a handwritten document found on Mangione, quote, speaks to both his motivation and mindset. So here's what else we know about the shooter. His name is Luigi Mangione, as you know. He's an Ivy League graduate with degrees in computer science. He was an avid reader and an active contributor on the website GitHub. He had an IQ above 130, so obviously a brilliant dude, and his actions are absolute madness. He started his day at Starbucks last week, we're being told, where he casually removes his mask to flirt with a barista. An hour later, he calmly executes the CEO of one of the largest healthcare companies in the United States before riding off on a bicycle. A week later, he walks into a McDonald's in Pennsylvania carrying the murder weapon, a fake ID used to check into his hostel, and a manifesto detailing his hatred for the American healthcare system. And unfazed, he apparently orders food and sits down, but the cashier recognizes him. And Luigi continues working on his laptop until the police arrive. And he has in his possession a ghost gun with a suppressor, all self-assembled. Now, I previously said, and this can be true, a ghost gun can mean a gun. I've seen it used in both contexts. A gun that has an obliterated serial number. It can also mean a gun that's been assembled from several different places. Or I've seen some people report that it was 3D printed. The whole shebang was 3D printed. So that's another mysterious layer of this story. Do you believe all of that? Now, there's also some talk that he had back surgery after going for a hike and breaking his back. And back surgeries are notoriously linked to psychiatric and psychological issues. And it's being postulated that perhaps he just kind of went off the deep end and has had a mental break. And that's what explains why somebody who's so intelligent and bright just completely has a break with reality. Something is not... Throw another one on the Barbie. Something's not adding up here. And I don't know what it is, but something just seems too clean-cut. Former Washington Post journalist Taylor Lorenz was on Piers Morgan's show the other night, actually just yesterday, and said she's still happy that healthcare CEO from UnitedHealthcare was murdered.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy at a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again...
We're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Thousands of Americans that being murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die.
So that is Taylor Lorenz, former Washington Post journalist, saying it brings her joy to watch a healthcare CEO be murdered in broad daylight. Now, this healthcare CEO, from what I was reading, he grew up in a small Midwestern town. His father worked for a grain elevator. He's a graduate of the University of Iowa and worked his way up the corporate ladder. Now, he made good money, but it seems like he came from humble origins and is as a case study on actually earning things and making yourself in the country of the US of A. And it brings her joy. This is what we're up against. Whether it's Jordan Neely's dad, whether it's those deranged Black Lives Matter stooges and orcs, just actively inciting race-based violence. And whether it's this woman, Taylor Lorenz, on a different story, saying it brings her joy that somebody who doesn't line up with every jot and tittle of her distorted, warped, and ugly worldview, it brings her joy when somebody like that is murdered in cold blood. These people are not going anywhere anytime soon. News from Washington. U.S. Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa now says she's supporting Pete Hegseth. She had been one of the holdouts on the Republican side of the aisle on Hegseth's nomination for Secretary of Defense. She said in a statement yesterday after meeting with Hegseth, quote, "I appreciate Pete Hegseth's responsiveness and our respect for the process. Following our encouraging conversations, Pete committed to completing a full audit of the Pentagon and selecting a senior official who will uphold the role and value of our service servicemen and women based on quality and standards, not quotas, and who will prioritize and strengthen my work to prevent sexual assault within the ranks. As I support Pete through this process, I look forward to a fair hearing based on truth, not anonymous sources. So that is Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, one of the holdouts who refused to say up until this very weekend whether or not she'd support Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. She says she's on board now. I think there are some other Republican senators that you have to keep an eye on. I'm not sure about those. But Joni Ernst, she got the message, I think, loud and clear. Either get in line or face a primary. And finally, this is kind of out of left field, but I heard this the other day and I thought I'd share it with you. This is Rainn Wilson. He's an actor. He plays Dwight Schrute, or played Dwight Schrute on the TV show The Office. He sat down for a podcast recently. I don't think he's a Christian, but he explains why he rejected atheism.
Why are you not an atheist?
I tried being an atheist. Like I said, I went through a lot of shit and had a hard time and felt a lot of anguish, and it wasn't working for me. And that might sound like a cop-out, but that's just my experience. But ideologically, to me, essentially, there was something that just didn't make sense about it. It just, try as I might, and I tried for years to just embrace the fact that there was just stuff. There's just stuff. There's 11 billion years ago, there was something that's smaller than the head of a pin, and then there's a universe, and there's, billions of galaxies. And there's physical laws, and there's chemistry, and then, for some reason, creatures are born out of chemistry, and chemistry becomes biology. No one knows why. It's just like, it maybe came from an asteroid, or lightning hit the ocean and created paramecium, and it's like, okay,
sure.
And try as I might. At that time, in my early mid-20s, I just couldn't. It just didn't make sense to me, and I don't even mean like philosophically. I mean like just on a grokking emotional level. And as I thought about my life, as I was thinking about the mystery and magnificence and beauty of consciousness itself. Of we talked about music concerts, and we talk about like falling in love. I remember holding my son when he almost died in childbirth at 4 a.m. at a hospital in the middle of Van Nuys, California, in the hallway with, my wife bleeding from her vagina, and holding this miraculous birth and this doctor that saved my son's life, and looking into his eyes and the profundity of that experience. And my job as an artist, as an actor, to create characters, to take these little pigeon scratches on a page and decipher that and make that into a character that people respond to. And not just Dwight, but dozens of characters I played before Dwight and after Dwight. And the mystery and miracle of art itself, of making something kind of beautiful and profound, of having these emotions, and the totality of the experience of being a human being. Again, as David Bentley Hart talks about, the experience of God. It just didn't make sense to me that stuff just exists and then spins around, and then humans are, there's little guppies, and then there's lizards, and then there's beavers, and then there's dinosaurs, and then there's, orangutans, and then there's humans. And here we are recording a podcast and having this kind of conversation at this level, and that it just has an essential meaninglessness to it as I experienced it.
So that is Dwight Schrute, actor Rainn Wilson there, talking about why he rejected atheism. Now, he still belongs to a false religion. He comes out of the Baha'i, I think that's how you pronounce it, persuasion. But boy, howdy, is he close. You're so close, Dwight. So close. I pray that he and others in positions like he occupies, actors, I pray that they would come to actual, real saving faith, not whatever Baha'i preaches. And that'll do it for this Tuesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.